Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gillian Henderson, Head of Project Management with InnoScot Health, and I'd like to welcome you along to the latest in our webinar series and our penultimate session for 2025. We run these sessions monthly and they cover a variety of topics, all with a focus on innovation or entrepreneurship. Our session today will be recorded and you can find all of our previous sessions on the InnoScot YouTube channel. So today we're looking at the Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. After our brief introduction, we'll go over the application process and some key dates. And then we are very fortunate today to be joined by Dr. Angus Perry. So Dr. Perry is a GP based in Scotland and is the founder of General Practice AI, a health tech platform designed to empower patients through personalised lifestyle-focused care plans and digital self-management tools. Angus is also a Clinical Entrepreneur Programme alum, so will be taking us through his experience of the programme and how it supported him on his entrepreneurial journey. After that, Angus and the InnoScot team will be on hand to answer your questions. So thanks to those of you who've submitted some questions in advance. Frances Ramsey, our Innovation Manager, is going to be monitoring the chat and Q&A channels. So if you have any questions as we go through, just pop them in there and we can pick them up at the end. So a brief introduction to InnoScot and our role for those of you who are perhaps joining us for the first time. InnoScot was established in 2002 as Scottish Health Innovations, or SHIL, and whilst our roles expanded and changed over the years, our core remit has always been the same, and that is to identify, accelerate and support commercialisation of innovation from within the NHS in Scotland. We are publicly funded. We receive our funding from the Chief Scientist Office and we're a not-for-profit organisation. So our main activity is around supporting individual innovators develop their ideas. And those ideas come to us at all stages, but the bulk of our work is focused on those early conceptual stage ideas, so very much at the pre-prototype stage. All our ideas are assessed before proceeding to our product development process, where we aim to develop proof of principle prototypes to support that project moving forward. All of our development work for the products classed as medical devices takes place under our ISO 13485 quality management system. And the focus for all our innovations is commercial strength, impact and health economic benefit. So whether or not you move forward with InnoScot, you will receive feedback in these areas. Post-development phase, we also manage the relationship with commercial partners and collaborators, returning royalty revenue to the boards and the innovators. We receive about 100 ideas a year and select about 8 to 10% for development. Of those that we don't take forward, we often signpost to other organisations who are better placed to support or suggest other avenues for the idea. We hold equity in 6 spin-out companies on behalf of the NHS boards, and that portfolio sits at around 30 million, which will be disseminated back to the NHS and the innovators upon exit. And we manage 18 commercial licenses. We support those licenses through marketing and communications efforts and manage the revenue generated from them, returning that profit back to the NHS boards and innovators. We also provide commercial advice to health boards, not only for the projects that we take on in our portfolio, but also for collaborations and wider research projects. So we're a multidisciplinary team. We've got strengths in IP management, regulatory and compliance, industry and investor partnerships, fundraising and grant management. We also sit within the Scottish entrepreneurial ecosystem, providing support to our innovators who wish to take their innovation forward through spin out or startup, which leads us on to the Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. So the NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme is delivered by a dedicated team at Anglia Ruskin University, and they work in partnership with NHS England. The main programme has been delivered since 2016, and since 2022 we've specifically opened up the application process to applicants from NHS Scotland. The programme is a free 12-month part-time workforce development programme which is open to all staff within the NHS, and it supports entrepreneurs to develop their innovation alongside their routine work. So there's a structured curriculum which covers business and entrepreneurial topics like startup fundamentals, funding, legals, team and leadership. And as well as the formal curriculum, there's also the opportunity for peer learning and networking via the cohort and the alumni. There's also a well-established mentorship programme, so there's lots of opportunities to broaden your network and learn from those at different stages in the process. So ultimately, it aims to support innovators to stay within the NHS and develop their idea rather than having to leave to pursue commercial ambitions. The programme itself is designed to be flexible, so the sessions are delivered hybrid with a mix of in-person, online and recorded sessions with regional pit stops throughout the year, and there is support provided to assist with travel and attendance at events that are maybe out with your area. So recruitment for this cohort will open on the 3rd of November, which is Monday, and applicants are invited to submit the application form, 2 letters of support and a 60-second video pitch. So there is lots of application support available, and there's a number of sessions called CEP Prep on the Clinical Entrepreneur website, so the links are on screen now. The application focuses mainly on you as an individual and your motivations for wanting to join the programme, and then your research or your concept. So have you fully researched the problem? Have you done some market research? What else is already out there? And then the applications are scored over 5 criteria areas: personal motivation, personal capability, clinical impact, NHS priority and the viability of the innovation. Successful applicants are notified, and the programme for the new year will start in the spring. And over the 12-month period, you engage with the programme through modules via pit stops, workshops, webinars and your mentoring sessions while working on progressing your innovation and your business plan. So although it is a 12-month programme, there are flexibilities around revisiting the learning. Programme graduates move into the alumni network while they continue to progress their innovation. So it's not 12 months and then over. So in terms of time commitment, the programme is hybrid. It's designed to allow you to engage in full-time work and training at the same time as participating in the programme. So obviously the time commitment varies, but the more you're engaged with the programme, the greater the benefit. The minimum attendance is half of the scheduled group educational events. So there's usually 8 per year, and also 4 interactions with your mentor and the completion of learning documents such as an action plan, personal development plan and lean canvas. So although there's no final assessment, there are check-ins to ensure that you're on the right trajectory and you're progressing with your idea. So whilst the main programme is delivered by the team at ARU, there is local support and events for the Scottish cohort via the Scottish Coordination Group. And that group is made up of representatives from InnoScot, NHS Education for Scotland, Chief Scientist Office, Scottish Enterprise, Digital Health and Care Innovation Centre and Codebase, who deliver the TechScaler programme. And our role as a coordination group is to act as a gateway to support in Scotland and assist with those elements of the health and care system which might be unique to Scotland, and also funding for development, growth and scale which might only be available to Scotland, and also follow-on training and support. So there is a separate schedule of meetings for the Scottish group and events held throughout the year. They're not a formal part of the curriculum. They mainly focused on networking, and they're through drop-in sessions with some learning throughout the year. Just move on to some dates. So as I said, the application for this cohort opens on 3rd of November, which is Monday. The applications are completed online, so you can register and save your application and come back to it. There is a Q&A application session on the 30th, which is tomorrow, and that's in the evening. I think it's between 5 and 6:30, where the team will be on hand to talk you through the application process and answer any questions that you might have. And you can sign up for that by the CEP website, and the events link is on the page there. But if you can't make that and do have any questions, then do reach out. The application process is open until the 28th of November, and all applicants will be notified of the outcome by April of next year. So with that, I'm going to hand over to our guest speaker for today, Dr. Angus Perry. As I mentioned, Dr. Perry is a GP. He's the founder of General Practice AI, a health tech platform designed to empower patients through personalised lifestyle-focused care plans and digital self-management tools. Angus is a tech enthusiast, director of a healthcare company, and has previously sold fitness and rehabilitation equipment. He's passionate about prevention, behavioural change, and using AI insights to enhance both patient care and professional satisfaction in primary care. So Angus, I'll just hand over to you now to share your slides.
Thank you. Okay. So, well, thank you very much for the introduction. And yes, my name's Angus. I'm a Scottish entrepreneur, so I'm based in Glasgow. I've got a Scottish name, but I'm not actually Scottish. You can probably tell by my accent. It always confuses some people. So I've been a member of the Clinical Entrepreneur Programme since, well, cohort 7. So I applied about 3 years ago. And what I want to do today is just to give you some honest feedback about the program, how it's helped me along my journey, and tell you a bit about what I've learned and what I've built and where I am currently, and just and things that I think would be useful to know if you're just joining the Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. So firstly, I want to talk about the value. So the first thing that I thought when I was applying to this program is that actually this is pretty amazing that such a program even exists. And to my knowledge, I don't think such a program exists anywhere else in the world where you've got a health service that has created an organization to support clinical and patient entrepreneurs to innovate in the healthcare service. I think it is actually quite remarkable. So that was my first impression. Now, the most value that I got from the program, I think number one was the mentorship. So they offer you the ability to have your own mentor, so someone who's sort of is walking down that path and has that experience. So I had a mentor. His name was David Cox, and he was excellent. Ex-A&E doctor turned health tech advisor, now founder. And I had some ideas of what I wanted to do with my business. And he saved me a lot of costly mistakes down the line by basically just telling me, don't do that, because that will lead to that. It became quite apparent to me that I didn't know what I didn't know, and it was quite a steep learning curve. So I think the mentorship for me was very important. So, of course, when you get onto the program, I would highly recommend getting your own mentor. I think number two is I got some very honest and direct feedback from a lot of people from the program. So particularly Professor Tony Young. I had a meeting with him at the very beginning, and it was a one-to-one, and it was a very memorable meeting, at least from my part. And he sort of dissected my business. He's obviously very knowledgeable in health tech, and just gave me this really good critique of my business. And we talked a lot about validation. Like, I have a certain hypothesis that what I'm creating is valuable, but that's just valuable in my mind. I've not tested those hypotheses. So that, thinking along those terms is not something that I'd previously done. And so having that conversation was very important. I'm quite grateful for that. I was put in contact with some other people. There was one particular gentleman from IBM who I also demonstrated my technology to, and he was sort of equally as sharp and honest with feedback. And I won't go into the details of what was said, but it was just very nice to have people who are willing to just give you that sort of raw, honest feedback. I think it's extremely valuable. And actually that has, both those incidents have been quite valuable in terms of my development from my business point of view. The quite amazing thing about the program is that there is an enormous network of people, and generally you'll find that if you meet fellow clinical entrepreneurs, they'll be very willing to help. So connect with other people on the program. My LinkedIn is here, my QR code. If you just scan that, I'm very happy if you want to reach out to me, if you have any questions about the program beyond this. But it's a great network, and the collective network, there are people who have expertise in almost every area that you could possibly want if you want to succeed, if you want your business to succeed. So I would really highly recommend making the most of that network. There is a team behind the entrepreneur program, Polly et al., and they are quite incredible. They will, if you reach out to them and say, look, I'm looking for some support here, they will go into their sort of diary of contacts, and they will help you out. And that's exactly what Polly did for me, and the team did for me. So I think make the most of all those connections and those opportunities and those resources. You actually learn skills on the program. Of course, there's a curriculum, as we've learned, and I think the skills that were most useful for me were pitching. So Tamsin and Tony Young, they did a pitching session, and I've never had anything like it. It was a masterclass, and I have an idea of how one should pitch, but actually we sort of went into a bit of the science behind it, and actually what makes an effective pitch. And so these skills, of course, are so valuable. If you have an idea and you've got a limited time to present your idea, to pitch that succinctly and effectively is so important. The other useful aspect was that we had access to sort of business and mindset coaching. So I don't know if that's still going to be the case, but it was when I was there, where if you applied for it, they would connect you with a coach. So I had a coach, I had about 6 sessions with him, and we talked about not things directly related to how to build a business or how to build a health tech business, but just more mindset, how to be focused, how to deal with negative thoughts, just that sort of stuff. And that for me was also quite useful. And finally, what I would say is what you put into the program is what you get out. And and of course this will be highlighted in your application process, but you've got to be very intentional when you're on the program, because you do have a tremendous opportunity here. You have so many people you can speak to who are so knowledgeable and experienced in their areas, and so you need to know exactly what you want to do. And maybe you don't know what you want to do, and perhaps actually you'll get some inspiration from the program. But of course, if you do have a business, if you do have a product that you want to build or develop, then I would recommend looking at the program, looking at what's available, look at the pit stops, figure out which ones are going to be the most valuable for you, and be quite targeted. And that's how you'll get the most out of the program. Now, I often say that we're currently in a golden age of innovation, of health tech innovation, particularly with what's happening with AI. I think AI is moving very rapidly. We now have the ability to even build basic MVPs, minimal viable products of applications, just using AI to build something, and that's never been the case before. And so I feel that the combination of what is on offer with the Clinical Entrepreneur Programme, plus all that's happening in AI, is pretty amazing. So what I'd recommend is, if you do have an idea, see if you can use AI to help build an MVP, and then perhaps that can be the basis of your application, and actually use the program to then turn this MVP into a business. And I think and you've got yourself a winner there. I truly think that we're in a golden age, and you combine it with the Clinical Entrepreneur Programme, I think there's a lot of good stuff that can be done. So that's my sort of honest feedback of the Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. So what I'll do now is I'll just talk about the journey of how I got to where I applied 3 years ago to where I am at the moment. I built generalpractice.ai, and originally when AI was becoming quite popular, I applied it into many areas of general practice, whether it's note-taking, like scribes, and so on. And I had lots of ideas, and so I built this sort of massively sprawling project with app with so much functionality. And really, it wasn't until I got engaged with the program and until I started building the business more that I realized actually I need to really focus on what I'm passionate about, and what is it that I can offer that is unique. And so actually I've focused a lot on lifestyle and prevention, and using technology to help empower clinicians to empower their patients. And I believe that technology plays a big role in that. And so this is fundamentally what I've sort of whittled down my product to. This is what I'm offering. And so this is this is what the app looks like. How it works. Fundamentally, a GP can use it, or AMP, or any kind of healthcare professional. They will sit with their patient, and they would build them a plan. So whether it's a plan to prevent a diabetes prevention plan, or dementia prevention, or maybe they've got hypertension. The plan focuses a great deal on lifestyle intervention. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the literature recently, but there is an enormous amount of literature that's coming out to show that lifestyle is a tremendous determinant to our susceptibility to physical illness. And I don't think that we are sort of harnessing the power of lifestyle and preventative medicine as much as I think we should. And so this is precisely what I'm trying to do with this application. So you build a plan with the patient, you identify what their modifiable risk factors are, where they could improve. You add resources to the plan, so national, local resources, information that will support them. And then when you've created the plan, you can add what's called daily check-ins. So like daily things that they can do that will help support them achieve their overall goals, whether that would be weight loss or improvement of their blood pressure, or improved glycemic control. So daily check-ins would be things like, did you avoid smoking today? Did you avoid UPF foods today? Did you do 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise today? The check-in takes about 10 to 20 seconds. And if over time, you collect all this data about how you're adhering to your plan. If, for example, that you didn't smoke for 5 days in a row, you checked in 5 days in a row, you get a medal. And if you do it for 10 days, you get a silver medal, and then 20 days you get a gold medal. And so you can break down all these goals into these sort of micro daily goals, and you collect all this data that you can show back to your clinician during a reassessment, where there's this dashboard, and you can see how they've done, what they've done well in, what they've not done so well in, and then you recreate the plan. So the whole purpose behind what I've created is to essentially bring the clinician and the patient closer together. So have this accountability loop where actually patients know that actually what they're doing, their GPs can see what they're doing, or their AMPs or whoever it is can see what they're doing, and you bring that relationship closer together. I mean, that's how I feel AI should be applied, I think, and this is precisely what I'm doing. So this is just sort of snapshots of how it works. So we've got the dashboard. So you've got all this, you can see all your checking, your status, your percentage adherence, and so on. And yeah, so that's essentially the application. I've also got some other AI tools like an AI scribe and other things as well. And of course, I've got the compliance, so DTAC, DCP 012, and DSBT, GDPR, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty much my business. Now, I was fortunate enough to raise £250,000 at the beginning of the year, so February, or so actually April, the beginning of this year. And that's been quite transformative, because it's enabled me to hire a development team. So to go from what I created myself to then create this new application has been quite transformative. And certainly being part of the NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme helped me to get to that position where I was investable for my business. Thinking about the program, even at the very beginning, when the first pit stop I attended, I met a lovely person called Yasmin Carson. She's a pharmacist, entrepreneur, clinical safety officer, and she was talking about clinical safety. And I'll be honest, I didn't know about this. I didn't know about DCP 0129. I didn't know about DTAC, and so that was quite eye-opening for me. And so then actually I hired her as my CSO. And of course, that's another very useful contact that I've acquired through the Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. But if I sort of think on a sort of macro view, how this program has been useful, it's kind of been like I've been on a trajectory, on a journey, and it's like a buffer. It sort of keeps me in the right path, so it just stops me from straying, going in the wrong direction, keeps that momentum, and I think that's the inherent value for the program, at least in my opinion. So I think, to summarize, I think you've got to be intentional. You've got to know what you want. What you put into it is what you get out of it. you combine that with the fact that we are in this golden age of innovation now with AI, I think it's a really good opportunity. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about it, really. So I wish everyone good luck with the application. I'm very happy if anyone wants to reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk about it a bit more and talk about the application process or whatever you want to know about it. But yeah, that's my take on the program.
Thanks so much, Angus. It's so good to hear how, I mean, you have done really very well, considering that you were in the cohort from 2 years ago. It really is amazing progress to make in what is, in innovation terms, a very short period of time. And certainly interesting to hear how valuable that external feedback is, because I think when we speak to innovators, they come to us with an idea. We know that the idea is good, the idea is generally solid, but that external critique of that idea and how it might be deployed in a healthcare system that's maybe different from the healthcare system that you're involved in, I think is absolutely invaluable. I think we always talk about Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. The curriculum is good and it's solid, but the value is 100% in the network. It's in that peer support and speaking to people who are on a similar journey, but perhaps at different points. So really good to hear about your experience. So I think Francis has been monitoring the chat and we've had some questions already. So maybe hand over to you, Francis, and we can answer some questions.
Yep, thanks. So there's a question come in from the chat. Can I ask, do broad-reaching topics such as preventative lifestyle medicine more useful than a narrow specific topic, for example, one on rare diseases, but which would be life-changing for those few individuals?
Okay, that's too broad-reaching.
So do broad-reaching topics such as preventative lifestyle medicine, are they more useful than narrow topics, I guess is what Sheila is asking there. She's typing away frantically in the background, I think.
I'll wait for the add-on.
Okay, you're looking at it as well, Angus.
Okay, yes, yeah. So, okay,
broad-reaching, yeah.
I mean, just from my point of view, I mean, I wouldn't say one is more useful than the other. I mean, I just happen to have a strong interest in lifestyle preventative medicine, and this goes well beyond my involvement with the Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. I mean, I was doing like exercise prescriptions for patients. I was doing like group consultations as soon as I qualified as a GP. I've had the privilege of working with elite athletes around the world, and this is something which has always been something that I'm very enthusiastic about. And so it just seemed natural that I would take that enthusiasm and apply it to my business. And that's precisely what I've done. It's kind of my unfair advantage, if you like. So so yeah, that's why I've gone down that route. But equally, I'm sure similar value could be derived from focusing on one particular disorder.
Yeah.
I think it also depends on how we would define useful. I think certainly if you have something that's automatically very obviously likely to be commercially successful, easily scalable and easily deployed, then that's, you can obviously demonstrate that impact really quickly. That being said, there is definitely a market for helping and technology that assists very niche, very narrow specific topics as well. I hope that helps, Sheila.
I would also say that I think lifestyle is actually quite hard to crack in many ways, because there are over 100,000 lifestyle apps on the App Store. It's just an absolute sea of it, and so it's probably easier to actually focus more specifically on particular individual conditions if you want to be successful. I'd say what I've created is actually quite different to a typical lifestyle app. It's not just another lifestyle app, it's a connection between a GP or a clinician and a patient. So that's how I differentiate between that. Of course, what I'm doing is quite ambitious, but I think, yeah, focusing on rare disease probably is an easier thing to achieve.
Yeah. Questions came in about how mentors are matched with participants, and if it's by clinical background, innovation type, or the business experience. I don't know how you found that, Thanks, I know.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a mentor on the programme. So there is a profile that's created for each mentor that is a member of the SET programme, and you can have a look at them and then try and match yourself. Is that your experience, Angus?
Exactly that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing more to add. That's exactly it.
And I know from meeting up with a couple of the people that I'm mentoring, we have an initial kind of a catch up to see if I fit them and if they, likewise. And I think that the mentors on the programme are quite honest and will take feedback as well. So if you were to meet with someone that you thought was going to give you X, Y, or Z, and it turned out that that wasn't the case, I think that they're quite open to saying, if I'm not a good fit, then you can, feel free to pick someone else if you like. So it's quite an open forum, really. So I hope that answers that question as well. Another questions came in about funding, and if that's provided by SEP itself. I think the answer's probably no.
No, although the programme is fully funded, so it's delivered at no cost to the participants, there is no direct funding provided via the Clinical Entrepreneur Programme for progressing your innovation. That being said, you can run other programmes in parallel with your Clinical Entrepreneur Programme. So Clinical Entrepreneur Programme is very focused on individual development and personal growth. So, for example, if you were a Scottish entrepreneur working with the NHS and interested in applying for SEP, you could also engage with the InnoScot programme, and we would work alongside you to develop your idea whilst you were developing yourself via the Clinical Entrepreneur Programme.
And from my experience, so the funding that I achieved, that was supported by a company called Vevolution. That's like Evolution, Vevolution, VIVO. They're based in Glasgow, and they just help me get me sort of investment ready, if you like. But I believe Evolution actually do work in parallel with this NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme as well. There's a question here. Do you have any experience with tech and being able to create an app? I absolutely. And this is what I was leading on to with the golden age of technology. There are many low code or even no code platforms, even vibe coding, and perhaps some of you are familiar with vibe coding, like Lovable or Replit, where you can ask an AI to build an app for you. And I mean, have a look at it. Have a look at Lovable or Replit. See what you can play with. It's just worth experimenting with.
Question round about developing the idea, if the applicants needed to have a developed idea or a prototype before applying for the programme, or can they just join because they're interested in entrepreneurship?
So I think it's best to have the kernel of an idea. I think that there is definitely scope to grow that idea, and quite a lot of the time applicants will pivot while they are in the programme and change their idea as they're moving forward. I think for the application, certainly it is preferred that you would have an idea. Is that your experience as well, Angus?
Yes, it is. And my advice, my product changed a lot on the programme. Actually, my idea evolved a lot. So I think it's a spectrum, but definitely having some, like you say, some kernel of an idea is important.
Last year, the programme was so oversubscribed that they were not able to give feedback to unsuccessful applicants, which is a shame. Is there any general advice you can give on improving our applications and making them better, I guess? Is a question coming from Jacob.
Yeah, so I think there isn't any feedback given on applications, which is a shame. That being said, there is a lot of support available in advance of submission. So there's certainly scope to make sure that you go forward with a very good application and a very strong application. So I would say to register and go along to that Q&A session tomorrow if you can. If you can't make that, I would certainly reach out to the team in advance of submitting your application, but don't be deterred from applying. on that basis because you've applied before?
Yeah, I would say you are in you have a lot of control over the application process. I mean, going back to my point about golden age, you can potentially whip up an MVP for your application program now, which was never the case even a year ago. So there's a lot you can do now to really bolster your chances of getting in.
So if you do have an idea or would like any further information on InnoScot support, do reach out to the team. You can complete an idea submission form here, or there is the option to also book some time for a chat with your regional support representative. But do have a look at the website. There's lots of good information there on other types of support that's available. So thank you all for coming along today, and thanks once again to Angus for coming along and sharing his experience and insights. If you are feeling inspired and thinking about applying for SET, do go along to tomorrow's Q&A session or reach out to the team if you've got any specific questions about your application or your eligibility. Our last webinar of this year will be on the 26th of November, and sign up and details for that will be available soon. So do email in if you've got any suggestions for topics that you would like to see covered next year. And lastly, Jane will have put a link in the chat, or you might receive an email with a survey just asking for some feedback on today's session. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.